Hi, welcome back. This will be chapter 31 of ShutterBug by Iriley. This is going to be for the Podfic's baton. If you've not figured out how that works by now, uh, please go back and rewatch the beginning of chapter 1 on Dust Bunny's channel. You're 31 chapters in. I don't know what to tell you. How have you not figured it out by now? The kidnapping counter has updated to 3 since the last time I recorded. I don't know if anyone else is keeping track of this, so I gotta make sure I do. Over the course of a week, Peter had gotten in touch with the realtor who had found him the 2 buildings Peter had been looking for. Mostly. The business building I sent you is still up, but the studio is bought. The contractor has another that fits your needs, has 3 extra rooms though. Peter had signed off on both buildings, after looking at them in person, of course, and had started to get them set up. Wade and Matt had got settled into the house/base, and Peter started to clean up the bigger building. The realtor had told Peter that the building needed a bit of work done to it, so Peter started looking for contractors. Other than that, Peter set up new identities for both Wade and Matt, which also meant that Peter made new documents for Matt to practice law, just in case. After all that, Peter was finally able to go back out as Spider-Man, which was why he was settling in on a rooftop in one of the tallest buildings of Gotham, listening for trouble. Since Peter had been working with Matt to reconnect with his spider senses, he'd been able to train a bit more in honing his skills rather than relying on his reflexes. Feeling Red Hood approach before he hears him, Peter counts that as a small victory. Not turning to the man as he silently walks closer, Peter decides to mess with him. "Hey, Hood!" Peter feels the man pause before continuing to walk closer.
"Hey, Spider. Haven't seen you in a bit."
Peter looks over, but he's had a week to come up with an excuse. "Yeah, that's my bad. A friend of mine got kidnapped and I was looking for him. Seems like you got to him first, though. Thanks for helping him." Hood looks at him for a few moments before answering.
"It's no problem. So you're friends with him, then?"
Hood sits down next to Peter as he asks. "Yep, known him for years." Hood nods, but Peter gets the idea that he doesn't entirely believe him. Peter stops but stands up, Hood joining him in the action.
"What?"
"There's a girl. She's by herself, and guys are closing in on her. I think he has a knife." Peter fires the web out towards them, and Hood does the same. Launching himself off the building, Peter pulls on his web and lands quietly on the roof above the man. "Just give me the cash, kid. Then no one's gotta get hurt." The girl shakes her head and clutches the bag closer to her. The man grunts and moves to swing the blade at her when Peter jumps down. The blade cuts along his forearm, but it's not too deep. Hood jumps down and hits the guy with the handle of his gun, knocking him unconscious.
"You okay?"
Hood asks as he turns to look at Peter, who nods and turns to the girl. "Are you okay? He didn't hurt you, did he?" She looks at him and shakes her head. Peter smiles and nods. She doesn't stop clutching her bag, but she does loosen her grip on it. "Let's get you home." The girl's eyes widen and she shakes her head. "Please, you can't." Peter looks at Hood, who had joined him after tying the man to a light pole.
"Why not?"
Hood asks the girl, and Peter sends him a look.
"What?"
Shaking his head, Peter tries again. "Why don't you want to go home?" She doesn't say anything, but she starts to shake a bit. "It's kind of cold out. Why don't we go somewhere else in the meantime? Is that okay with you?" She's hesitant, but agrees. Peter leads them to a nearby Batburger, the only place still open that won't ask questions, and orders them food. Once the food's finally brought out, Peter pays and brings the food to the table Hood brought the girl to. "Bon appetit!" Hood pauses and the girl looks at him confused. "What does that mean?" "It basically means enjoy when talking about food." She nods and takes the burger in front of her before eating it. Peter sits next to Hood in one of the chairs as he pulls his mask up to his nose. Watching as Spider-Man orders food, Jason waits with the girl at the table in silence. Jason may not be the best with kids, but this is rough, even for him.
"So you don't want to go home?"
When she doesn't answer, he continues.
"I can understand that. Didn't care for my home when I was your age. You're like, what, 7?
She squints and corrects him. 12.
Fine, 12. Either way, I get it. You don't have to tell us if you don't want to, but we do want to help.
She doesn't say anything, but soon enough, Spider-Man comes back with food for them. Why he'd gotten food for Jason, he's not sure. Jason pauses when Spider-Man says, "Bon appetit." It could just be a common phrase, but Peter does the same thing. Jason shakes his head and watches as the girl starts to eat. He freezes when Spider-Man reaches for his mask. Is he? Jason holds back a sigh when the other man stops at his nose before opening a burger of his own. Looking at the one in front of him, Jason opens up the bottom half of his mask to eat while he listens to them talk. "So what's your name?" Spider-Man starts. "You can call me Kiki." The other man nods. "Okay, Kiki, can you tell us why you don't want to go home?" She pulls her bag closer to her and looks at the table. "This is going nowhere." Jason starts, but Spider-Man elbows him in the rib and shoots him a look, as much as he can with the mask. "Ignore him, Kiki, he's a brute." She gives a small laugh at Spider-Man's words and Jason frowns. "Am not. So are." Jason closes his mask so they can't see him pout, but this makes Kiki giggle and open up again. I want to tell you, but I don't want to go to jail." Spider-Man starts again. "You won't go to jail." She looks up at him. "Promise?" "Promise." Jason can see the smile he gives her and can tell it's the truth. My dad works for the Penguin, and I heard him talking about it. Said something about making people into animals." Jason mumbles out a quiet, "new mutation drug?" that Spider-Man hears. "You said you were going to go to jail. How come?" She looks down at the bag in her arms. "'Cause I took it." Jason and Spider-Man look at each other. "Took what?" the other man spurs on. "The needles that turned my mom into a fox lady." She opens up her bag and shows the needles full of a gray liquid. Neither of them know what to do with that information, and they don't get the chance to when a large man crashes through the window. Jason grabs Kiki, who still has a firm hold on the bag, and jumps out of the way when the man charges them. Said man looked like a mix between a man and a bulldog. Spider-Man jumps in front of them and shouts to Jason, "Get her out of here, I'll hold him off." The man growls and rushes forward to grab Kiki, but Spider-Man blocks him, causing the man to bite down on his arm. Spider-Man, for his part, only grunts and tells Jason to get out before shouting the same to the workers. Jason can see the workers running out of the back, so he goes to the front. Soon enough, Spider-Man comes crashing through one of the front windows. He shouts as he skids to a stop. "Bad dog, sit, stay." The man doesn't, instead going for Jason again, or rather, for Kiki. "Give me back the vials." He reaches a hand out and Spider-Man fires a web to catch his arm as Jason moves to jump out of the way. The man's arm knocks into Jason as he jumped, causing him to lose his hold on Kiki. As the girl falls, he can hear her yell, "Ow! Uh-oh." Regaining his footing, Jason sees one of the needles sticking out of her arm, the syringe down. But before they can do anything, an ear-piercing scream is let out. Jason moves to cover his ears, but doesn't do anything. Helmet. And Spider-Man uses the moment to web up the man as he covers his, no doubt, sensitive ears. Once the man is contained, Spider-Man runs over to Kiki, pulling the needle out of her arm as she shakes. "She needs a hospital," he starts.
They won't be able to help her fast enough. Follow me.
Jason watches as he carefully picks her up and starts to follow after him. Calling in a car, Jason's quick to get in the driver's seat. Spider-Man sets her in the back and gets in. Once in, Jason takes off.
Close your eyes.
Jason orders. "What?"
Just do it. It'll save some time later.
Jason watches out of the corner of his eye as Spider-Man covers his eyes with his hands.
Call Agent A.
He says and shushes the other man and questioning him. A robotic voice answering him.
Calling Agent A.
Agent A, use the voice modifier. I have a guest.
There's a hum and acknowledgement before Jason hears a click.
It's on. What's the problem?
A kid. She was injected with a drug that turns the user into an animal. At least partially. I have Spider-Man with me. We're headed to the Batcave, ETA 5. Spider is coming in blind, so tell Batman not to freak.
Jason can hear Spider-Man mumble, Batcave? But is more focused on the response from Alfred.
Understood. I'll let the others know to be masked. I'll be waiting at the bay.
As they hang up, Jason pulls through the opening wall and into the tunnel leading into the cave.
You can open your eyes now.
Spider-Man takes his hands away from his mask and looks around the tunnel as they pull into the cave. Opening the door, Spider-Man gently grabs Kiki before following Jason further in. Alfred is there with a Batman mask on, along with the voice modifier.
Set her on the table here.
Spider-Man does, and Alfred gets to work.
She's in good hands. Agent A is trained for this.
Spider-Man looks at him and nods, but doesn't leave Kiki's side. It was 2 hours later. Kiki had screamed for a little bit, but had calmed down soon after. They hadn't been able to find a cure, but they were able to stop most of the effects from taking hold. Kiki now sits awake, poking at her new ears. During the checkup, Alfred had found a small dog-like ears poking out of her head, along with a curled tail from her lower back. She turned into a wolf dog. Mostly. Huh, Spider-Man hums as he looks after her. He doesn't seem freaked out by it, which means he's adjusting to Gotham after dark well enough for a new mask. Speaking of... Batman and company, Spider-Man calls out to what would have been an empty space. Dick steps out of the shadows in his Nightwing gear, and Tim follows suit. Damian shows himself from the ceiling when Spider-Man looks up to him. The demon brat clicks his tongue, but jumps down. Bruce doesn't move from his spot, probably convinced Spider-Man doesn't actually see him, and was just trying his luck. Spider-Man turns around and looks in the corner by the Bat computer and tries again. Sorry for the intrusion, Batman, but it was necessary to make sure she'd be okay. They hold eye contact for a moment before Bruce slips out of the shadows. Comes the expected grunt as he ignores being called out in favor of checking on Kiki's files. She can't go home, her dad's in jail, and her mom's MIA. She can't go into foster care. We all know how that'd go. Despite their best efforts, the system was still mostly fronts for trafficking and fighting rings. Bruce speaks up first. I have a connection that can help her, at least until we can make a permanent cure. Everyone nods, but Spider-Man hesitates. Can we trust them? This makes them pause. Of course, she'll be in good hands. He doesn't look swayed, but nods. Bruce starts to talk to Dick and Tim about getting in touch with their connection when Jason notices Spider-Man walk over to Kiki. You'll be going to live with a friend, is that okay? Just while we find your mom. Kiki thinks for a minute before slowly nodding. Spider-Man pulls out a burner phone before handing it to her. This is just in case you need help. You can call me on this. It has my number in it already, so you don't have to worry. She takes it slowly and examines it. Only call if it's an emergency, but you can text it as much as you like. I'll answer it as fast as I can, okay? Okay. She holds onto it with the same grip she used to hold onto the bag. Spider-Man walks over to Hood and looks over at the Bat computer. It's 11:59. Jason raises an eyebrow but looks at the time. Yeah? Once it hits 12, Spider-Man looks at him. Happy New Year! When Peter made it home, Wade had jumped him, planting a masked kiss on his cheek before running to do the same to Matt. When Jason made it home, Doug had run to greet him like he normally did, with a big, wet kiss. When Dick finally got home at 1, he sees Celine laying asleep on the couch with 2 champagne glasses on the table, the bottle still full next to it. Smiling, he picks her up and takes her to bed, placing a light kiss on her forehead before moving to clean up the food she'd set out. They'd eat it later that night. Tim and Damian both sent out Happy New Year's text and got various responses back. Raven. Happy New Year's to you as well. Heart. Connor. Happy New Year's! Smiles. Bruce, once finally in his room, shares a glass of wine with Clark over the phone. Peter sends Jason a message the same time he gets one. Jason, Happy New Year. Peter smiles and closes his phone, rolling onto his back to stare at the ceiling. He'd been in Gotham for 5 months. And there we have it, the New Year's special. So, yeah, I'm sorry about this being kind of late, but whatever. On to the bloopers. And now we get into the stilted conversation of turning the voice mod on and off again. Oh, my knuckle cracks are audible. I'm gonna re-record that line. Hood does the same. What do you mean Peter fires a web and Hood does the same? Did Hood suddenly manifest spider powers out of nowhere? Please. Was there a Lazarus pit infused radioactive spider? Is that what happened in this world? Yes, it's gay. No, I was gonna make a joke about them getting a little kinky and Peter biting Jason, and that's how he randomly manifests spider powers. But like, I don't think Peter biting anyone would do anything. But he is slightly radioactive. That is an actual thing. And he does have the spider DNA. It's just I don't think he produces any, like, venom like a regular spider would. But then again, usually when the people dunk Peter into a Lazarus pit or Lazarus pit adjacent things, they tend to give him slightly more spidery traits. So maybe he does have fangs and venom in this instance. These are the questions. Does Peter biting somebody either A, give them spider, option A, regular spider venom, B, spider powers, or C, super cancer? And then there's secret option D, why the fuck would Peter bite somebody? Nothing happens, even if he did. You're gonna stick with super cancer. Hood jumps down and hits the guy off with it. Once Peter pays and brings the food to the table, Peter pays and brings the food to the table, Peter pays and brings the food to the table Hood brought the girl to. As. They say as so many times, loses all meaning. As. Writing pro tip, always try to read the thing you're trying to write out loud. You don't need to do full-on Podfic, you know, you don't need to do it, like, perfectly, like you're recording it, but, like, at least try to read what you're reading out loud. Don't just skim through it in your head, read it out loud. Slow down a little bit, try and sound out what you wrote, because trust me, it'll catch 90% of grammar mistakes. If you're like a native English speaker, I will specify this doesn't necessarily work for people who aren't fluent in English, or if English is like a second language that they're not super familiar with. But like if you're like at least conversationally good at if you're fairly good at English, good enough that you're writing in it, being able to speak, reading what you're saying out loud, like reading what you're writing out loud, or at least attempting to, is a very, very good way of trying to figure out, trying to see what's a run-out sentence, what's something that doesn't make sense, what's something that could be phrased a little better. It's the easiest way to usually catch writing mistakes. You learned it by your parents teaching you when you were growing up. You would start babbling, and when you would say a babble that sounds remotely like what something is, your parents would go, "Oh, good job, that's right, that's an apple." And then you go, "Apple," and then they go, "Apple," and that's how you would learn. Yawn me. Like it's gay, but it's not a romance, if that makes sense. Because we're at Batburger again. The fries. Not older. Other. Ugh. I'm trying to sound like a dog. Give me a second. Give me a second to let me get a phone call sound. Agent A is also using a voice modifier. No, for fuck's sake. Yeah, like, obviously there were side tangents because ADHD, but, like, oh god, I need to figure out a Batman voice. Guys.